Oh, no.
Well, that's something I'm hoping to change, because now April 14th to 15th there's gonna be the Castle Rock Film Festival. I was recently named the festival director, which
Congrats.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, obviously you're doing something like this and supporting actual local film. I mean, I grew up in Colorado, and so I know how much of a barren landscape it can be when it comes to narrative, that there's like these small pillars in the community that are like fighting to make it happen. And the state is definitely having their rebate and supporting, but it's still like a mission to get. I mean, we have such beautiful locations and places in Colorado, but it's still a mission to be like legit productions. Come to Colorado,
And that's why I think we need to change the landscape. We have so many talented people. We have so much brain drain because people go where the money is. People go where the big staff is and what they can do. That's what we're hoping to change with some Castle Rock Film Festival. Douglas County is actually the 8th richest in the entire nation.
Oh.
Yeah, the 8th richest county in the entire nation. So why aren't we showing them movies, showing them what we can do? Hopefully that'll help change their minds about, producing local films, producing, and supporting local endeavors so we can get our word out, our brand, our stories out. But, check us out on Film Freeway. The first year we're giving a little treat to filmmakers. Everything's super cheap to submit. The early bird deadline is February 14th. And it's supported by the Castle Rock Arts Cooperative. And we're going to have Nick Lucy, the person behind Castle Rock Arts Cooperative and the show Into the Drink, on the show very soon. But until then, Jared, you have something very special to share with our audience about getting the word out about your movie, getting your movie in front of more screens and more people. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I made a short film here in Colorado called They See You. I'm a Colorado local. I lived in LA. I followed all those people to where the money was, and lived out there, went to school out there, came back about, I'd say 5 years ago, and basically kind of pulled together a lot of real, John Combs, Tyler Kasich, Troy Van Eck, just a lot of really wonderful Colorado people to make this short film. Shot it up at my friend's cabin, and it was this kind of really wonderful homegrown, what you can actually do out here in Colorado experience. We were really fortunate with our festival run. We played 7 of the top film festivals named by Dread Central in the world, and we got picked up by Alter. It released I think in October. I don't know the date off the top of my head. But so it's right now online. You can kind of see the power of Colorado film. And, I think, not to get too tangential, but there's sort of this idea of Hollywood or New York or Atlanta, which are really great communities because you have so much experience there. But there's also so many restrictions around what you can and can't do that kind of almost going off the beaten path. It's sort of not to give too much away in the short, we'll have a link, I'm sure, to people will check it out. But, it's we were able to do a car wreck, which for a short film is f***ing insane. So I'm a proud resident of Colorado. I mean, I am moving back to California, but still, keeping that native pride. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got to keep our native pride. We got to keep the support local in there. So I hope when you go to California, you're convincing people to, all the spooky little things you can do in Colorado. You'll convince them to bring the money here. But in the meantime, I really want to talk about They See Us. I really want to talk about what inspired you to make this movie. And, you didn't just make it about, you had a really exciting, pitch and concept, and it was really contained. It was an all-female cast, which I thought was exciting. What brought you into the horror movie sphere? Because this is your first horror movie, right? Yeah,
this is my first horror film. There's a couple things. One, I want to do kind of a shout out to Max Curry, who was kind of the lead producer on the project. And, originally Brian Carmody, when he came to me with the concept and we were co-writing it, Max came in and said, I think this might be a stronger piece if we incorporate we have a one binary person in it, 3 females, and we kind of embrace more diversity. And that's one thing I really love about the genre space is that it's sort of like very warm and welcoming. But essentially, for me coming to the project, what I found most interesting when Brian pitched me the piece was that there's this question of obviously it's a horror film, but for me, this question of like mental health and how you deal with a family member who might be going through a schizophrenic episode, where it's not so cut and dry of like, oh, this is the monster, this is the evil person. And it's something that I feel like if it was a drama would be really tragic. With a horror film, it gets a little bit more exciting about the possibilities that can happen. And that's really actually why I delved into the horror space, because I was like, oh, what if I made a movie that people wanted to watch instead of felt like obligated to watch? And it really, over these past couple of years, has just like ignited this flame in me to really embrace like making horror films and realizing like there's so many taboo subjects and things that are difficult to talk about that if you put it in the context of a horror film, like, you know, it's easier to look at a monster and say, oh, that's a monster, but then think about the philosophical implications or the symbolism.
Well, I'm really excited you said that because, you know, Smile 2022,
Yeah.
Smile was one of my very favorite movies from last year. And it kind of got into a lot of that, what you're talking about. It's all about burnout. It's all about mental health when your family doesn't want to listen. And a lot of the same themes I see in They See You. But I'm taking that you really care about the background behind a character. So how do you approach when you talk to the actors about building the story behind the story here? How do you build that?
My alma mater is Cal Arts, so I'm a classically trained actor. Went through 4 years of their wonderful, conservatory program. Learned so much about acting, and it really made me appreciate the craft. And I think sometimes there's this whole idea that you have to get a performance out of an actor, or you have to like beat it out of them, or like good directing is like tearing the performance from the actor. And for me, I've looked at directing as more like embracing and supporting and realizing that you're working with a fellow artist. So my job as a director, writer, is to create all the signifiers, create the backstory. I don't think you necessarily always need to explain the why as much as point in certain directions, and then encourage an actor to personalize the project, figure out how they relate to the character, and instead of making it like this abstract substance of a shell they're trying to fill, more be like, okay, we've all got a multitude of worlds within us. How do you find this world within yourself? So that you stop looking at a character and it's more like, for like Colleen Kelly, oh, I'm talking to a loved one. And you make it a very human and personalized scene. And I think for me, that's where you bring a lot more like truth to the film. And obviously everything is pretend, but it makes it a little bit more crunchy.
Well, I'm glad you said crunchy because, the actors, I feel like they really had something to mash down on. And it was perfect for a horror movie because, you really did feel as though they were going to get into something deep.
Yeah.
Just a spoiler for everyone who's watching, not all the questions that are raised in They See You are answered. But I really did get the impression that, the actors had something that were like overbearing, like long-standing things. And that the weirdness they get into really just overtakes the rest of the film. So tell me, where do you feel like is the implication of how you can bring in horror to begin to talk about social progressive issues?
For me, I think that it's sort of like you take what you want to talk about, you take what matters to you, and then I think there is the weird spark of creativity where it's almost like these things, it's almost better not explained, that you kind of like hold it loosely, you let it come to you. Just like I feel like in a story, I personally like it when there are holes that give the audience room to interpret why somebody's acting a certain way, because then I feel like art becomes more of a mirror into yourself. and then it becomes what I really feel like, I think we're all making entertaining movies, but what I find the most entertaining is like, for example, we talk about Smile, and I start thinking about my life, how I deal with psychological issues, how I would deal with, they very much in that film did use the mechanism of the smile and of the haunting and of the kind of jump scare with it. But especially if you look at like the short film that went around the circuit, it's really this person who's like seeking help, and I start to think about, how do I seek help? Do I seek help? Do I feel like it's weak to try and seek help? And those are important human questions,
I'm glad you bring up the mental health aspects, because
Yeah.
I feel like, in film it's hard to translate, it's hard to talk about it. Like I think movies who do a really good job about it, like We Need to Talk About Kevin and Luce,
Yeah.
always come from like a demonizing perspective.
Yeah.
So how do we translate that and, maybe educate people as well when we're just also having to put like a big scary monster in the background?
For me, I always find film to be such an interesting medium because it so easily becomes propaganda and so easily becomes a message that my relationship to it when I'm looking at a project is, what is my own experience coming in? How do I evolve myself? Because if I feel like I can learn something through the process and grow as a person, then audiences watching my story are also going to be able to grow. And that it's not so much my job to give a lesson, but more like, let's go through an emotional experience together.
One thing I really love about Alter, the YouTube channel you guys are on, that's just a great distribution path for independent artists, is that they aren't afraid to dive in. They really aren't. They showed The Lost Ones, which my college roommate edited. His name's Michael Neve, and he's on the show as well. It's all about a mother losing her son and being haunted by that, emotionally and then literally. So with a story as good as yours, we are trying to encourage, that kind of level of filmmaking, not just in Colorado, but really in, the whole internet sphere. Bring out these indie productions that just blow people away. How do people get on Alter with a story as good as yours?
Sophie Carroll, who is the person who finalized the deal for Alter, they're on the hunt of all the major kind of film festivals, looking for shorts that they believe in and filmmakers that they believe in with messages that they want to put out into the world. And so I think so much of me being fortunate to be on Alter isn't just my expression of art, but Sophie's expression. And essentially Gunpowder and Sky saying, hey, we want to promote indie film. Let's try and get more interesting voices out there for people to enjoy. Let's have a platform that we as, Titans can say is great.
So just to get into the detailed portion, so Sophie Carroll, the scout for Alter, they found you. What festival were they in?
They found us at Panic Fest, checked out the screener, and then we finalized the deal right before we showed at Overlook. And then I actually got to meet Sophie at Overlook since Alter was a sponsor of the film fest. It's run by Mike Lerman and Landon, names. But two really, really wonderful, just like stalwart people who love movies and are just, obviously amazing programmers. Ash Hoyle programmed it with Jessica Eskin. And yeah, it's sort of this, there's these festivals that if you're fortunate enough to be, a representation of also their voice in what they program, that you do get these opportunities. And, there is a submission portal on Alter, but I think at the end of the day, it sort of becomes like your relationship to your art, making sure you have the money to submit to film festivals, and then it will be seen. Other great shout outs, Nightmares Film Festival, probably one of the warmest that I've felt, and Popcorn Frights. There's just so many great kind of like genre film. In Colorado, Telluride Horror Show, just packed houses, and there's a really warm embrace for the horror community. So I just say, tell your story and murder somebody at the end or put a monster in it.
Hear that, folks? Murder somebody at the end. We have Jared Januschka. We are going to be playing a fun game called Monster Mash. Because they see you, there's a monster. I won't say what it is. Is it man? Is it disease? Is it a spooky thing in the dark? I won't say. You have to go watch the movie. Check out the link in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to me and Jared's channel. But Monster Mash. So here's the deal. Here's the game. So I'm going to say some things in a rapid fire kind of style. Questions about monster movies and monster adjacent movies, and you have to try to get them right. And if you get more than you don't right, then I won't have a monster eat you. But if you don't, then I'm sorry, Jared. I hope you're very tasty, so it's quick.
All right, here we go.
What monster is the Oscar statue inspired from?
I feel like I'm learning. It's bad when you're learning from the questions. Like a child molester? I don't know, Oscar.
No, it's actually the thing from the Blue Lagoon.
Oh.
Yeah, they based the creature design off the Oscar.
Great.
Originally, this Steven Spielberg movie was supposed to be a horror movie.
Is it E.T.?
It's E.T.
Oh, wow. I wonder what E.T. was supposed to do.
Well, that's a great question, because the screenplay that was originally a horror was changed into Ghosts and became another Amblin film that Spielberg produced. What movie was that?
All I thought of was just Patrick Swayze and Ghosts, like with his wife on the... And I was like, I don't think that's horror. I mean, maybe your loved one, but oh man, I wonder what they would have done. I'm trying to go through Spielberg's filmography.
Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. He's often said that he directed the movie, but he did not direct the movie.
You just drawing me in with these questions. Give me more hints. I want to learn more.
I'll give you an adjacent question to this one, and it'll be extra spooky. In this movie, Joe Beth Williams dives into a muddy pool of just a detritus and what turns out to be actual bones, and she was not told that they were actual bones until after she did the scene.
I literally feel like I am in like a horror film where like everyone's seeing the signs and everyone's probably listening to this being like, oh, it's that. Oh, you moron. Just like say the movie. What are you doing? How could you be this bad? More hints. Give me more hints. Let me learn more.
They're here.
I have no idea.
Oh man, it's like a classic 80s movie. You've never seen it?
I don't even know what's the title.
It's Poltergeist.
Oh. Well, yeah, I have seen Poltergeist. I just remember reading articles about the set being like haunted and like somebody dying and like that sort of thing.
Oh, there's all that, sure.
Yeah, I didn't know Spielberg was even attached to that movie and like.
Yeah, well, originally he was going to direct it and it was going to be a movie called Night Sky, but then they made it Ghosts. He handed it off, and then but
I don't fuck with ghosts. Sorry, continue.
But in the movie, the inspector, you remember the inspector, he gets his face, all the skin gets peeled off. Whose hands peel off his skin? Their famous hands.
Who's got good hands? God damn it.
It's not the quality of the hands, it's the quality of the man.
All I can think about is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with like Charlie's weird uncle and like laying his hands over Charlie's hands. Being like, do they look bigger now? I don't know. It's not like John Candy or some.
No, it's Spielberg himself. He likes to pull the skin off of people.
Great. Fantastic.
Maybe he's the monster.
I wonder how many people could identify Spielberg's hands.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
I don't know. But here's a one.
Yeah.
Here's a big monster. So in King Kong, it takes Peter Jackson 18 months to build the CGI Empire State Building that King Kong climbs up.
Yeah.
In real life, how many months did it take to build the real Empire State Building?
I want to say that longer, but probably based on the question, it's
shorter.
Shorter, yeah. Let's go with 6 months.
Oh, close. It was 14 months. 14 months.
Do you know how many bodies are actually like in the walls of the Empire State Building?
No, but I want to know.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Oh, most certainly.
Okay, like I don't know. There's this really great graphic novel that Neil Gaiman endorses. Oh no, what's it called?
Great way to name drop Neil Gaiman, by the way.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you have to.
You have to.
The plot is about this girl who falls in a hole and then gets a ghost, but it's like stuck to like a piece of itself. And so she always has to like carry a bone around in her backpack. Anyway,
That's
if you
helpful.
find it, yeah. More questions.
More questions.
More learning for Jared through the test.
I want to know more.
Yeah,
Papa.
exactly. This is intriguing. You thought you came in quizzing me, but actually you're the teacher. Yeah.
Originally in Pacific Rim, Idris Elba's part was going to be played by another famous actor. Which actor was it going to be?
This is so wrong, but I don't know the answer, but it's going to save me in my regular life.
Okay.
Anna Tran is my producer, and I haven't like mentioned her. She's fantastic. Has no relationship to acting or that film, but
So the answer was Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, great.
So is Anna Tran as good as Tom Cruise?
Yeah, with a budget. Yeah, with a budget, she definitely is.
She's the Tom Cruise of budgets.
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we all know that the real monster is man.
Yeah.
So in the movie Scream, the reason that Kevin Williams had made the two killers, of whom we won't say, because if you haven't seen Scream, what the is wrong with you? Go watch Scream.
Yeah.
Then come back.
Thanks for letting me like know to not ruin the movie ahead of time. I appreciate that. Like, you know.
Yeah. There's a subtext, a certain
Right.
subtext. Why is there that certain subtext between those two characters?
You know, I think it all comes down to love.
From the moment the lights dim and the screen flickers to life, until that final camera fade when the crowd sits up, there's no other experience like seeing a film. The Denver Short Film Festival proudly presents the coolest film festival in the American West. Landmarks Mayan Theater, Denver, Colorado, February 23rd at 7 p.m. Come celebrate lights, camera, audience, and all the people who make it possible on this special night. Get your tickets now at denvershortfilmfestival.com.
So Jared, people saw They See You, then they saw you, and that was exciting because not only does it get picked up at Alter and all these fantastic film festivals, which, by the way, folks, if you haven't seen or been to any film festivals like this, they're excellent places to go and learn and be part of your own community, because horror movies, they're really a community. But once they see Jared, they see the great person and the great potential that you could be. So, you start getting phone calls, and we can't get into that.
Yeah.
But what do you do once you start getting these phone calls, people saying, hey, Jared, what do you got in your back sleeve? What do you got in your back pocket? What movie can you make? What can you do for us? We have X amount of dollars.
I think going through this process, there is, I don't want to say luck, but I'm extremely lucky. And I always have been all my life, just been like touched by God to be lucky. People give me services, work on my projects that are way more talented than, I always am very passionate about what I do. And I think people recognize that talent or that passion, but people are always really quick who have been really in the industry for, multiple decades to say, hey, this just seems like a fun thing to do. So for me, I almost, I want to say that cliche thing of like, go after your passion. But I also want to mention, like when I was in the festival circuit, I saw this film called Swallowed. I can't remember the filmmaker's last name. His first name's Carter. He did that movie, The Ruins. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, he made a really amazing horror film that's coming out called Swallowed that was on the fest circuit. And you really realize quickly that like, if you follow your passion and you give a shit about what you're doing, other people will care about it as well. And, and that can come down even to the basics of like budgeting, taking care of your crew, how your set is run, all the pre-production you do, scouting, shot lists. Braden Waller, one of my producers on They See You, is an amazing storyboard artist. And, we literally boarded out the entire film. And so, especially when you start getting the calls and the opportunities to start making more material, you kind of have this community that loves you, that has supported you for years, and it's sort of a celebration among everyone to say, hey, this is happening. And then it's also like, as a writer-director, like, fucking write a script, fucking write another one, somebody giving you any amount of money is literally somebody being like, here's money, set it on fire for art. And so I feel a responsibility to be like, how do I show up to make those flames burn bright? And and that realizing there's kind of this like limitless potential.
Speaking about putting yourself out there, film festivals. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of people are. There's a debate about them right now. Is the internet more valuable resource? Is it more instant gratification for you and your project? Does it yield more results? But you are a person who's been in a ton of film festivals,
Yeah.
especially with ACU. So what would you say to those folks?
Is it better to like, have a bunch of porn or have a girlfriend?
Jesus Christ.
But
Different answer.
Yeah.
You put up a different answer.
if you look at the analogy, it's like, I don't think I want to say either one is like terrible. I think it really depends on how you're using them. Like if you have somebody who really supports you and loves you in your life and is really trying to put forward your career, well, that's amazing. If you're really looking for instant gratification or somebody to discover you, or you need this sort of like kind of quick fix, well, I think the internet can be really wonderful. And I mean, not that somebody's going to like, hopefully somebody's not going to like discover you while you're watching. That would be disgusting. But, what I'm trying to say is basically this idea that like, I think both are great. And you just need to kind of figure out like what works for this project and what works for me right now in my career.
Well, you hear that, kids? Try. It's been Jared Januschka on Support Local Film. It's your host, Hunter Burns. Don't forget to subscribe and check us out on Spotify, Amazon, all the places you can find us, and maybe our sneaky link. And don't forget to stay creative, Colorado.